If you were a child of the 90s, you know what a significant role those small, round plastic discs held in your life. The sound you made shaking a chip bag, the excitement you felt opening the bag, and the magic of the shiny Tazo that emerged. They weren't just a toy. They were the shared language of a generation. The story of a Tazo goes far deeper than a chip bag, tracing back centuries. To understand how Tazos became a global craze and then vanished in an instant, we must take a journey through the dusty pages of time. Origin: from 17th century Japan to the Great Depression. Our story begins even before Tazos' supposed homeland, Mexico. In 17th century Japan, there was a game called Menko. Children would throw wooden or clay discs decorated with images of samurai and monsters onto the ground, trying to flip their opponent's discs over. Simple but incredibly popular, this game eventually crossed continents and reached America, finding new life in the harsh conditions of the 1930s. The 1929 stock market crash had plunged America into a deep economic crisis. As toys became a luxury, children were forced to create new games. At the time, milk was sold in glass bottles, and their caps were the perfect material for a game just like Menko. Children began collecting these caps and playing by throwing them on top of each other. This new game became known as milk caps. However, as the years passed, milk packaging changed and the caps gradually disappeared. That is, until 1991. In Hawaii, a teacher decided to introduce this game from his own childhood to his students. The students started playing with the bottle caps from a local fruit juice brand called POG, and the game was suddenly revived. It became so popular that people were buying the juice just to collect the caps. Soon, these discs, inspired by the name of the juice, came to be known as POGs, the birth of Tazos and a marketing masterstroke. Meanwhile, Frito-Lay, a subsidiary of one of the world's largest food giants, PepsiCo, was searching for a new idea to boost sales. Pedro Padierna and his assistant Fabian, marketing managers for the Sabritas brand in Mexico, were tasked with this mission. After weeks of brainstorming, the duo couldn't come up with a tangible, impactful idea. They disliked each other's suggestions and were at a dead end. It was then that they remembered the soccer player cards from their childhood. We could run a similar campaign, they thought, but couldn't decide what new twist they could add. It was at this precise moment that everything changed. At a promotional fair in Hawaii, Fabian saw a revival of a game from the 1930s. A beverage company had printed artistic designs on its bottle caps and named them POGs. Children would stack these discs and try to topple them with a special slammer. Disc. The player who flipped over the most discs won. The potential of this simple yet addictive game impressed Fabian, so much that he immediately struck a deal with the Canadian company that produced the original POGs and brought the discs to Mexico. The idea was now ready, but they needed a name. They knew the name POGs came from the fruit juice abbreviation, Passion Orange Guava, but they wanted a more original and memorable name for their own campaign. They gave the task to an advertising agency. Out of hundreds of options, the agency came up with Tazo, inspired by the Spanish word taconazos, which means to hit with the heel. The name evoked an old game in Mexico where children would flick bottle caps with their heels, and it was exactly the cheerful and catchy name they were looking for. The next challenge was what to print on the Tazos. It had to be something that would make children not only want to play, but also collect them. To solve this problem, Pedro Padierna personally met with producer and director Steven Spielberg to secure the licensing rights for the Looney Tunes characters, which were on the rise and would soon become even more popular with movies. The characters had the potential to appeal to both boys and girls, which was a perfect strategy to make chip sales skyrocket. Everything was set. In the summer of 1995, Tazos, released with the ultra-cute Tiny Toon Adventures characters from Looney Tunes, became an instant massive success. Almost every child in Mexico was now playing Tazos and talking about Tazos. A global craze, Tazos conquers the world. This incredible success in Mexico spurred Frito-Lay into action. They realized Tazos could be a global phenomenon and launched them worldwide in 1996. In Australia, this new promotion competed with local POGs. Frito-Lay spent a full $10 million just to introduce Tazos in Australia. The results were mind-blowing. Chip sales increased by 80%. The Tazos craze was so immense that while it boosted chip sales, it also created problems for schools. Children couldn't stop playing Tazos during breaks and even between classes, sometimes leading to arguments. In Australia, some schools were forced to ban Tazos and the chips that contained them. This event showed that Tazos was not just a promotion, but a cultural phenomenon, competition and evolution. The peak year's Tazos evolved with each new collection. After Looney Tunes, they released Magic Tazos, Metal Tazos, and even spinning spinner Tazos like Beyblade. Frito-Lay constantly kept the collections fresh by licensing popular animations, movies, and games. Other companies joined the wave, releasing their own card and disc collections. Competitors like Oddbods and Goosebumps cards were in fierce competition with Tazos. Each new collection meant new excitement and a new goal for children. The disappearance, the end of an era. So, why did such a successful and beloved phenomenon vanish? The end of Tazos wasn't caused by a single factor, but a combination of several. First, restrictions began on advertising aimed at children in many countries. Companies could no longer as easily use tactics of putting toys in food products to entice children. Second, licensing rights for popular characters became more expensive every year. Acquiring the copyrights for many characters meant a huge cost for companies. And finally, the biggest competitor entered the scene: technology. Cell phones, tablets, and online games pulled children's interest away from the streets and physical games. The place of Tazos was taken by the endless entertainment offered by virtual worlds, a brief return and an everlasting memory. In 2020, Tazos made a surprise return. This time the target audience wasn't children, but adults who remembered those days with nostalgia. The Champions League and Pac-Man themed collections were aimed at the nostalgia market. However, this comeback was limited and not permanent. Today, chip bags usually contain digital promotions, QR codes or coupons instead of Tazos. Tazos is no longer just a small prize that comes with a chip bag. It is a memory of a generation, a symbol of an incredible story that stretches from the Great Depression to a global marketing masterstroke. They may never return, but the place of Tazos in the hearts of 90s kids will always remain special, just like that moment they opened their very first bag.